Welcome to the Neurocrush Immersion. In this episode, we are addressing the interesting and intriguing theme unlocking your child's potential. What if we've misunderstood what it means to be intelligent? What if your child isn't struggling but simply thinking differently? What if I told you your child already has everything they need to thrive? Creativity, intelligence, resilience, all hidden like treasure, waiting to be unlocked. The question isn't if your child has potential. The question is, are we giving them the right keys to unlock it? Today, we are diving into the science, mindset, and everyday practices that can help your child become everything they are meant to be. Let's start by understanding what learning is. Learning isn't about just what happens at school. It's the process of acquiring or modifying knowledge, behavior, skills, values, and preferences. Learning can be goal oriented, it can be motivated by inner or external factors, it can be a blend of personal, educational, and social experiences. Can you recall something important you learned outside a classroom? You probably can. One of the very important aspects of learning is, of course, human memory. And memory involves three stages. Encoding is the stage where you receive and process information. Storage is the stage where you create permanent records. And remember that in the brain, we have an actual RNA transformation happening when we convert something in that we are processing into a memory, into a record. Retrieval is being able to recall that stored data for use. Think of your memory like a filing cabinet. How we store and how we find our experiences matters. Try this. Recall a happy childhood moment. Which senses of yours come alive first? If you are watching the visual guide to the podcast, you'll see this image which covers the biology and psychology of memory. Now, let me try and explain memory using this image as a guide. Memory isn't just one thing, it comes in many flavors and they sit on a spectrum. On the left of the image, you have individual memory, the kind your own brain holds, the biological and psychological side. On the right, you have collective memory, the kind a group or culture shares, the social and cultural studies side. Individual memory splits into two big types, explicit and implicit. Explicit or conscious memory, which you can talk about, includes semantic memory, facts and general knowledge, episodic memory, specific events you lived through, and when it's really about you, we call it an autobiographical memory. Implicit memory, on the other hand, shows up in what you do without thinking. Procedural memory, for example, is how to ride a bike or how to play the piano. Once you've learnt it, you do it quite automatically. Priming, being faster at recognizing something you've seen before. Very typical of the workplace, for example, where as we do things, or even a task, for example, where as we do things, we do it faster and better. Collective memory also has layers. Communicative memory, stories people tell each other, family lore. Cultural memory, rituals, monuments, shared symbols. Functional memory, institutions or practices that keep certain memories alive, like national holidays. In the big picture, biologists and psychologists tend to study more the left side of the image, how your brain and body store your memories. Sociologists, historians, cultural scholars focus on the right side of the image, how groups remember things together. What then is behavior? Behavior is how organisms respond to stimuli, both internal stimuli and external stimuli. Behavior may be voluntary or involuntary. It may be socially acceptable or not. It may be conscious or subconscious. When your child is being naughty, is he being naughty or is he navigating his world in his own way? Ask yourself this question. Now, when we are faced with a problem in the child, we have to ask ourselves these following critical questions. Is it a learning problem, a memory problem, or a behavior problem? Is it a developmental problem, which means something that's been present early on, or is it an acquired problem, something that has come upon the child recently? Does it have psychosocial triggers, in other words, from the environment and from the mind? Or does it appear to be neuropsychiatric? Does it seem to have developmental and other neurological features associated with it? When did you first notice your child needing help? Was there a trigger at this point in time? Sometimes things that we take for granted, for example, moving home, changing school, grandparents leaving the home to go and live somewhere else. These little things, seemingly little things, can have a huge impact on the child. There are other terms that we use interchangeably: intelligence, ability, and aptitude. Intelligence is your overall mental and cognitive performance. Ability, on the other hand, is what potential you have that is skill based. Aptitude, on the other hand, is the predictive power for future learning. All these concepts are important as we continue to talk about unlocking your child's potential. But when we test children and adults, we do different kinds of tests. We do achievement tests, which measure recent learning. We do aptitude tests that measure inherent capability. And we do broad experience tests, which tell us what the student brings beyond curriculum. Now, your child may not ace the tests, but could they be built for greatness in a way that the tests cannot measure? Knowing this is going to be really important in unlocking your child's potential. If your child has aptitude, but let's say in a particular domain that aptitude is limited, can aptitude be improved? Yes, it can. Aptitude, or your innate ability to do something, can be improved through focus training. It can be improved through cognitive strategy building. It can be improved through long-term thinking-based instruction. Aptitude is not fixed. It grows with the right nurturing. And therefore, your ability to nurture your child is going to be extremely important in unlocking your child's potential. So what works best? A curriculum that develops thinking approaches, a curriculum that encourages application across varied tasks, a curriculum that leverages on our multiple intelligences. So what then are these multiple intelligences? Howard Gardner, a famous Harvard psychologist, said intelligence is problem-solving capacity in a cultural context. And in that way, there was not one intelligence but many. And children may excel differently across these intelligences. Ask yourself, what kind of smart is your child? Musically smart? Logically smart? People-oriented smart? Different people are smart in different ways. So why is multiple intelligences as a concept very important? It validates the diversity of the classroom. It enables an inclusive approach to education. It supports the idea that aptitude is important and must be developed, and that careers must be guided based on aptitude and multiple intelligences. MI is not relevant just for children. As we get older, it helps elders stay cognitively active. And how is MI different? It's very hands on and therefore enabling. It's observational and therefore not standardized. You don't reduce it to a measurement. As a consequence, it's non stigmatizing. It boosts self esteem by opening new windows. Gardner also pointed out that multiple intelligences can be isolated even in situations of brain damage. They are often witnessed in prodigies, where it's as if one aspect of the brain grows at the expense of others. And if you dial back to my podcast on the savant brain, you will be able to relate better to this. Multiple intelligences have distinctive developmental and evolutionary histories, and they are psychometrically supported. Howard Gardner famously, therefore, said, "It's not how smart you are, it's how you're smart." If your intelligence is naturalist, understand nature and organic processes is something that you do well. If your intelligence is spatial, you are able to see and manage the world in 3D. If your intelligence is musical, you have the capacity to recognize, create, reproduce, and reflect on music. If it's logical reasoning that you're intelligent at, you're skilled at deductive reasoning, at detecting patterns, and in logical thinking. If your intelligence is interpersonal, you're good at communicating and reading people. If your intelligence is bodily kinesthetic, using one's body in highly differentiated and skilled ways is something that you're able to do. If your intelligence is linguistic, you're a master of spoken and written languages. And if your intelligence is intrapersonal, understanding yourself, what you feel, and what you want is something that you do well. All of us have two or three of these intelligences. Which one of these do you have? And which one of these does your child have? Think about it. People tend to therefore veer more easily towards their fields where they have higher intelligences. People with linguistic intelligence excel in words and languages, poetry, poets, writers. People with visual spatial intelligence excel in shapes, designs, graphics, and visualization. Designers, engineers. People with musical intelligence excel in performing and composing musical pieces, singer, musical composer. People with interpersonal intelligence have the ability to organize people, group activities, and social relationships. Leaders, social workers. People with intrapersonal intelligence have the ability to understand their inner feelings and have self realization and to know about their own self. Philosophers, the clergy. People who have a logical intelligence excel in math and logical thinking, bankers, accountants. People with kinesthetic intelligence excel in performing sports, physical activities, and body movements, actors, athletes. People with naturalistic intelligence love animals, plants, and nature and understand the natural world, biologists, conservationists. Thus, how you're intelligent also determines the kind of work that you do. Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences offers several important benefits, especially in education and personal development. It broadens a view of what is smart. Instead of seeing intelligence as a single IQ score, we have 8 distinct ways in which people can excel. It supports differentiated thinking. By tailoring our lessons to tap into different intelligences, teachers can reach more students. For example, a history lesson could include storytelling, linguistic, role play, bodily kinesthetic, timeline visuals, spatial, and group debates, interpersonal. MI encourages learner engagement. When students discover their intelligence strengths, they are more motivated. A musically inclined student might compose a song to learn new vocabulary, while a spatial thinker might build a model to study geometry. MI promotes inclusive classrooms. It legitimizes diverse learning profiles. So children who don't shine in traditional quizzes will have still have recognized gifts. It can boost self-esteem and reduce the one size fits all stigma. MI, as we've been saying, can guide career and personal development. You can choose your careers and hobbies, learn to play to your strengths. An interpersonal learner might thrive in counseling. A naturalistic learner might excel in environmental science. MI fosters holistic assessment. Rather than just relying on paper and pencil tests, MI encourages assessments through projects, performances, portfolios, and peer teaching, capturing a richer picture of what students know and can do. MI encourages collaborative learning. Group work that balances different intelligences enables learners to both teach and learn from each other. For instance, pairing a logical thinker with a verbal communicator on a problem solving task. MI stimulates curriculum innovation. It inspires new educational materials, for example, music based language apps, movement integrated math games, and cross disciplinary approaches like science through drama. In short, Gardner's multiple intelligence framework shifts the focus from can you pass a test to how do you learn best and how can we build on that. How do you bring intelligence into action? Developing intelligence depends on the person and their learning, the culture and its support, society and its rewards. And let me remind you again, as Gardner says, it's not how smart you are, it's how you are smart. One thing that most parents confront every summer as schools and colleges prepare to reopen, there is that dance, familiar dance of anxiety and debate. Which course or career path should my child choose? But instead of giving you generic advice, we are now going to dive a little bit into neurology and behavioral science, specifically to understand how brain dominance can help students and parents make aligned and less stressful choices. Parents have their own aspirations, and many parents unconsciously try to live out their own unfinished dreams through the children. If you always wanted to be a doctor, your child probably hears about medicine from the cradle. If you struggle to break into business or finance, you may push them towards those fields, believing it'll give them an edge. Students, on the other hand, shaped by peer pressure, social media, and changing definitions of success, often set lofty, sometimes unrealistic goals. They might dream of becoming a tech entrepreneur in high school or a content creator with zero planning. In the mix of parental expectations, social comparisons, and self generated pressure, the actual question, what am I naturally good at, often gets buried. And this leads to stress, family friction, and sometimes a degree program or a profession that does not fit the person. Enter neuroscience. In recent decades, neurological and behavioral researchers have been mapping out how different parts of our brain handle different tasks. One cornerstone concept is hemispheric dominance, meaning, is your left brain more active or your right? There are some hypotheses we rely upon. The valence hypothesis suggests that your left brain has more positive emotions and your right brain more negative emotions. On the other hand, the right hemisphere hypothesis postulates that the left brain is your emotionally non-dominant hemisphere and your right brain is your dominant hemisphere. Remember that for language, for most people, about 95 to 98% of people, it is the left brain that is the dominant hemisphere. So it's interesting that the hemisphere that's considered dominant for language is non-dominant for emotion, and your right brain which is not considered as important for language, is dominant for emotion. Now, if you're a left brain dominant person, you probably have some cognitive strengths, a strong verbal memory, remembering words, definitions, and facts, sharp linguistic ability, reading, writing, debating, logical reasoning and problem solving, excellent vocabulary and comfort with abstract ideas. So, left brain dominant people probably tend to be thinkers. Research, especially in conditions like epilepsy, where the location of where the seizure starts tells us a little bit about the person's cognition and behavior, has shown us that left brain dominant people tend to be more ideological and analytical in decision making. They are more motivated by duty, planning, and pragmatic concerns. They are persistent, diligent, and driven by structure and purpose. Typically, therefore, the careers that seem to suit left brain dominant individuals include medicine, diagnosis, research, patient interactions with the theory base, law, argumentation, textual analysis, logic, business and finance, accounting, data analysis, strategic planning, computing and IT, programming, algorithms, system design, research, and humanities like philosophy, psychology, sociology, history, and economics. On the other hand, right brain dominant individuals have specific cognitive strengths too: a superior visual memory, images, patterns, faces, strong spatial awareness, designing, building, visualizing, high creative flair, art, music, storytelling, hence they are considered creators. Specific behavioral tendencies, again learned through research from conditions like epilepsy with a right brain focus, guided by mood and emotion, often making intuitive, heart led decisions, working in bursts of inspiration, thriving on novelty, drawn to aesthetics, imagination, and less structured environments. And of course, if you've heard my podcast on Vincent van Gogh, you will recognize where some of these traits come from. Typical career fits for right brain dominant individuals include fine arts and performing arts, painting, sculpting, theater, dance, cinema and music, directing, cinematography, composition, architecture and design, visualizing spaces, graphic design, fashion, advertising and media, creative campaigns, storytelling, brand building. So, the left brain dominant individuals are logical, ideological, and dutiful, tend to be more ideological and philosophical in their approach, more motivated by social and pragmatic rather than emotional concerns, more diligent, more purposeful, capable of greater tenacity, and driven more often by a sense of duty, while the right brain dominant person is creative, emotional, and intuitive, have a better appreciation of the world around them, greater creative ability, a proclivity for the finer aspects of life, and tend to be more mood and emotion driven in making their choices, both day to day ones and those that are life defining. Ask yourself, do your child does your child think with its heart or with its head? And this will give you an idea of whether your child is more left or right brained. For those interested, I will direct you to my article, The Predominance of Brain Dominance, rather dated now. It appeared in the Hindu magazine, but still very relevant in the way that we think about this. Now, how does brain dominance matter for career choices? It aligns your aptitude with enjoyment. When a student's natural brain dominance lines up with their field of study, they are more likely to enjoy the work, stay motivated, and succeed. For example, a left brain learner forced into painting classes might feel lost, just as a right brain creative person would choke on a 500-page economics textbook. Brain dominance shapes specializations even within professions. For example, in medicine or music, understanding dominance helps with subspecialization. A right brain medical student might excel in radiology, for example, interpreting images or surgery, spatial coordination, while a left brain classmate may gravitate towards research or pathology, data analysis, diagnostics. Brain dominant choices reduce parental student conflict by making parents aware that not every child is destined for medicine, engineering, or the traditional roles of doctor, lawyer, accountant. The theory encourages families to stop imposing unrealistic targets. It helps shift the conversation from "you must do what I want" to "let's discover what you're wired for." It also reflects modern workplace realities. India's urban economy has diversified so much that job security is no longer found only in conventional careers. Today, a right brain dominated young person might start earning early in media, entertainment, or design industries even without a formal degree, and sometimes out earn their even more qualified peers. So, what practical steps can parents and students take? Have self assessment conversations. Ask yourself, do I remember names and facts easily, or am I always sketching and daydreaming? Have the children reflect on how they solve problems with logic and language, or through images, mood, and creativity. Try mini experiments. Enroll in a short coding boot camp or a weekend painting workshop. It will tell you whether you have the yen for that kind of activity. Notice where people feel energized versus where they feel drained. Consult simple brain dominance quizzes and educators. There are free online quizzes that you can take. Teachers, career counselors, or trained psychologists can administer basic tests that help us highlight strengths. Match fields to dominance and not to status. Rather than chasing prestigious labels, families should focus on areas of strength. If your child is right brain oriented, consider courses in design, film, fine arts, or early experiential programs that let them build a portfolio. If they are left brain oriented, guide them towards discipline that reward analytical thinking, structured learning, and systemic approaches. In today's rapidly evolving world, it's no longer enough to choose a career because my neighbor's son is doing it or because everyone in our family becomes a doctor. The real question is, what is this student's brain wired to do? Neuroscience, with concepts like brain dominance, multiple intelligences, and aptitude testing, offers a scientifically grounded lens to help parents and students answer that question. By recognizing how a young person tends to think, learn, remember, and thus perform, logical, verbal, and analytical patterns, or visual, emotional, and creative patterns, they can make choices that they feel naturally satisfying with maximum success. So, as the new academic year looms and everyone scrambles to fill in those application forms, take a moment. Quiz your child's learning style. Observe where they shine. Guide them towards fields that resonate with their brain's natural rhythm. After all, life is too short and careers too long to sail in a direction that doesn't match your internal compass. Neurokrish, working with Buddhi, has over the years built a 360-degree assessment model for this. We include a family and learning environmental analysis, aptitude and MI tests, mental health screening, Wechsler and other IQ tests, brain mapping, and a holistic health evaluation when we meet young people in helping them understand how their brain works and what may be the wisest choices for them. We ask the question constantly, can we integrate systems to unlock human potential? Is there a role for traditional wisdom? Is there a role for modern science? Can they come together to maximize human potential? Can Ayurveda or yoga align with brain stimulation, neurofeedback, and counseling? At Buddhi, we say a resounding yes. And if that interests you, you should look up buddhiclinic.com, our website, to understand the work that we do. We strive at Buddhi Clinic to unlock human potential using a blend of modern science and ancient wisdom. Here's a final thought. Let your child choose career paths, life directions, learning strategies based on their brain dominance and innate potential. Don't ask, how intelligent is my child? Ask instead, how is my child intelligent? Thank you.